long time ago, in a continent far, far away, there was a country in the middle of a crisis with itself. The rulers of a small land called France received ridicule from their lower class citizens and workers for their huge spending. This ultimately resulted in the collapse of France's economy as a rich minority faced a poor majority.
France in the 1700s was in a major national debt. The luxuries of King Louis XIV put the country first into debt. Louis XV, who ruled from 1715 to 1774, only made it worse. He built large palaces at Versailles and waged war against his neighboring countries, including the French and Indian War and the American Revolution. The amount of money spent only plummeted the country deeper into debt. Louis XV's grandson, Louis XVI, also spent a lot of the money. He spent it by expanding the military and wasting state funds for himself. Instead of using it for the country, he used it all on lavish parties and social functions. As an attempt to fix the economy, Jacques Necker, a financial expert, was brought in by Louis XVI. He said the king and his court must stop the extravagant spending, reform the government, and abolish tariffs. However, he was kicked out by the rich, which consisted of nobles and clergy, after suggesting a tax be given to the first and second estate.
While the French's spending increased, its tax revenues started to shrink. The richest groups in France didn't contribute to the state and left the peasants to handle the taxes. Even though the French advisors tried to reform the tax system, the already incredibly high amount of taxes made it almost impossible for reform to take place.
During this time, French peasants made up most of the population. Almost 90% of them lived at or below the subsistence level. They barely had enough to feed themselves and even had to pay taxes over that. The rich aristocrats controlled all of the wealth in France. Since virtually only the poor were taxed, they could not have enough money to give to the government. The rich had all the money, yet they were not forced to pay any taxes. This led to a lack of a consumer base. Only a small portion of French people had any money to spend, so small businesses could not survive long enough to make a profit. Labor in France was mostly devoted to subsistence agriculture. This did not allow any room for economic growth, which plummeted the French even deeper in debt.
In the 1780s, there was a major agricultural crisis. A series of crop failures destroyed much of the French crops. Due to natural sources destroying their crops, the demand for food became higher. With less food and more demand, the food market saw prices skyrocket. The king tried to import more food from other countries, but the national debt just did not allow that to occur. Even with the rise of food prices, the French peasants still had to pay a large amount of tax. This spurred the French to begin protesting and rioting, which eventually sparked the French Revolution.